All right, Matt and Jers, we are back. The US Open is behind us at Pinehurst, and what a week it was. We'll get into all of that, the highs and the lows. I know a crushing loss for you on the outright front. We've also got LIV Nashville this week, the highlight of the month, maybe some people are saying. And of course, the actual biggest major in the month of June, Travy, a home game for us here. The lone time that golf comes up to the Northeast most years. I'm from the Pacific Northwest originally, so we never had any golf. So I'll take one event a year, even though I know a lot of people up here wish there was more. But Jers, how are you doing? How's it going? I know you texted last night in the middle of the night. You said you couldn't sleep because of what took place with Rory McIlroy. Give us how you're feeling on this Monday morning.
Yeah, I appreciate you not putting Rory in the thumbnail because he probably doesn't deserve to be in the thumbnail. But yeah, it's just how am I going to recap it? We all saw what we saw. I've never seen anything like that outside of Sebastian Soderberg on a few days ago. Just an absurd few misses from Rory, a few decision making from Rory. And we're going to break down the US Open final round shortly, and we'll go through some of the poor decisions or mishaps from everyone, not just Rory. But yeah, definitely that one hurt the most. I've probably a lot of my outright losses up there for sure. But I mean, that's luck. I got lucky this year. Taylor Pendrith was a lucky win. You got to be lucky to win outright bets. You got to get your guys in the mix, and from there, get lucky. And shout out to Bryson. Well deserving. He deserved it. What he did short game was tremendous and surprised us both out of the bunkers, out of the tight lies. 10, no, not even 10. 25 out of 10 impressiveness from Bryson. So congrats to the Bryson backers. Congrats to Bryson DeChambeau. But another failed major for Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, and we'll get to all of that here in just a second. It's funny. I think we drove around the great state of North Carolina a reasonable amount. We had a lot of time to chit chat in the car, and I think we were talking about how the luck had seemingly gone a little bit your way this week, or this year so far. So I do feel bad for you, but not quite as bad because You've got me twice in the final round with Xander at the PGA and Pendrith over Knapp at Byron. So I feel bad for you. Don't feel as bad as I would if things hadn't gone your way. I feel good for our boy BK. He needed something to
Shout out.
He had a great week. Well, let's do a quick housekeeping to get started. We'll also have a pod. I think we're recording it tonight with BK. We'll be on Tap and Birdie because we're all going to Travy together this week. And if you are going to be up at Travy, shoot us a DM, shoot us a tweet. We always like to, as we always say, we like to talk to ball nerds. We like to make new friends in the space. So if you'll be up there, let us know. Would love to hang out, grab a drink, and watch some golf. Like and subscribe on the pod. We really appreciate it. It helps the pod go out there in front of more people. And thanks so much to everybody who subscribed to the site last week. I think it was a really awesome week for that. And as always, we try to give the best content that we possibly can. I wish my picks had gone a little bit better. We'll talk through kind of our thoughts on the course, how things went. Overall, I think we were very much in the ballpark of how things were going to play. Obviously, you made a great call on Rory, so I hope people got some value of what we had up there on the site. And I will say this is I don't even know the right word for it, a disclaimer, just a reminder. If you did sign up for weekly and you don't want to keep subscribing to the site, unsubscribe. It's a weekly subscription. It's going to charge you on the day that you subscribed, and it costs us a lot of money to basically pay back subscriptions with the fees and things like that. So we don't do any refunds for that type of stuff. So this is I guess, warning for people to listen to the pod who signed up and for whatever reason don't want the Travy intel. I would want the Travy intel. But if you don't, just make sure to unsubscribe so you don't get charged the $10. But again, we really appreciate everybody who signed up. I think for the most part, the engagement in the Discord was really awesome. And as we've said before, I think one of the coolest parts about the Discord is we don't even do a good chunk of the talking. It's people in there coming up with bets, coming up with stuff. And I know you had some obviously up on the side is the outrights and things like that, but you had some cool hole by hole bets that you nailed.
Oh, yeah,
was that your biggest win of the week? Tell people about that.
Yeah, the hole by hole definitely paid for the majority of the week. I mean, from out there, we were looking at the holes. We noticed that a few holes, hole 4 and hole 16, just visually looked insane, and we talked about that on Monday of last week. And FanDuel and DraftKings was offering props for like a whole score, which they do in majors more than anything. They don't really do that in regular tour events. So they offered hole 4 bogey or worse for about 50 golfers on Monday. On Thursday, and they were plus 180 to plus 300, and I was like, this hole is going to play absurdly hard. If 30%, 40% of these bets hit, I'm going to cash very highly. I think 45% of the bets cashed from plus 180 to plus 300. And I made a very sizable return off just that one call I made. So I just we were driving to the hotel on Wednesday night. I was depositing money into DraftKings. I was like, I'm betting every single one of these hole by hole props for hole 4. And they nerfed it after day 1 because they realized that the hole was hard. And so pays to be boots. Like we knew more than the books on that hole. Like no one knew that information. So definitely took advantage of that there.
Yeah, and I think the other small Vic for the site and the model and the boots was another great result for the model. And I think what I should have done is just trusted the model. And this is probably true for the last 2 majors. And I think let's just get into that now. Is Bryson was 3 in the model. Rory was 5 in the model at the PGA. I think Xander was 2, Bryson 4, Scottie obviously number 1 at the Masters. So the model's done really, really well in the majors this year. And we tend to make the model on Monday nights after we see the course for the first time. And I think when we saw the course on Monday, it was very clearly, and we talked about this on the pod that we did on Monday, there was a clear distance bias. Like the fairways were wide enough that hitting it long was going to be an advantage. And then being able to come into those greens with a 9 iron versus a 6 or a 7 iron was going to be key. And that's kind of how I made the model. And that's kind of what my thoughts were on Monday. And that's what a lot we talked about. And that was kind of your initial lean for Rory right out of the gates, was all of those things kind of together. You add in the Bermuda. Rory's good on that. I think it makes sense. As we were there Tuesday and Wednesday, I genuinely think the greens were firmer Tuesday and Wednesday than they were at any point the rest of the week. And what started to happen was, even with 9 irons, even with pitching wedges, no one was being able to hit the greens on the Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the practice round. And we saw these guys working on their short game almost exclusively. I think they had to, the green speeds were getting so fast that I think they had to choose between firm greens or fast greens, because if they're firm and fast, like no one was going to be able to keep the ball on. It's going to just be ping pong back and forth. I think they ended up going a little bit softer on the greens, but keeping the speeds high, which spun it back towards kind of how it looked on Monday, where the bombers were able to keep the ball 30 feet versus the guys were missing the greens. You start doing the math, you hit a few more greens than everybody else in the field. That works out. We still saw a reasonable amount of guys make a ton of putts, scramble. Henley finished top 10 solely because of that. But I think I would have been better off just sticking to what we saw on Monday than what we saw on Tuesday and Wednesday, just because I don't think they ever truly pushed it to the limits that we saw in those practice rounds.
Yeah, if they pushed it to the limit, it could have surely been a over par winner, but it still played basically how we envisioned it. Yeah. I never thought that they were gonna just make it unscorable like they did at Shinnecock in the past. Because I mean, I think it was perfect, like what they did, truly. But yeah, you mentioned that, and that was the reason I bet Rory, like that apex height thing, the distance off the tee, and Bryson obviously fits that narrative as well. Like he does everything that Rory does as well. He just made a few more clutch moments and didn't make as many unclutch mistakes as Rory did. So yeah, they fit the same exact bill. What Bryson did that we didn't think he was going to do was bunker play. We thought if he was going to get in bunkers, he was going to be fucked. And he's mentioned in his career before how he doesn't play the best in bunkers, doesn't feel incredible from bunkers. And like he did, we were wrong. I will hand up say we were wrong, and I'm happy. Like I'm not happy to be wrong, but what he did was so impressive, because Bryson as the bomber and the great putter, but I was so impressed by his tight lie chipping and his bunker play. I thought Bryson was going to putt everything off the green because he's an exceptional lag putter. He did not do that very much at all. He was chipping and spinning the ball like I've never seen Bryson DeChambeau do. Truthfully, like in his whole career, he's never been that guy. So he's just shows how talented and skilled he is of a golfer. And I've been a Bryson guy for a long time. It sucks that I'm not on him. I've been on a lot of his other wins, but and what happened with Rory obviously makes it 10 times worse. But I'm not mad losing to Bryson.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. For me, and we talked about it. Like Bryson was a guy who coming into the week we didn't like, but then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was talking to you a lot about Bryson being a guy that I might want to bet. Like we spoke about it a reasonable amount, just because it did make the way he was driving it was really good. We saw him a few times, not a ton. We didn't see him that much, but the driver was amazing. But to your point, we didn't think this was a course where you could exclusively win with off the tee. And when you look at Bryson's stats, yeah, he drove it really well. He was first in driving distance, but he still only gained 4.4 off of the tee. That's not going to win you any tournament. That's going to give you a great head start, but you're going to have to do things elsewhere. He has struggled with his short game on tight lie courses. We just saw it at Augusta. That's what took him out of the mix after a great opening round at the Masters. Like He had those flub chips off the tight lies. He has struggled historically out of bunkers and out of tight lies, and he hasn't been that great on Bermuda either. So those were kind of the things you put together, and you're going to have to scramble at this course. That was enough to get me off of Bryson, and that's why what he did was so impressive. Like, you can just point to getting up and down from behind the green on 8 twice as what won him the tournament, because that up and down, they talked about it a lot on TV. They gave it the respect that it deserves. Bones was like, this is incredible. I've never seen anything like this. And it's because that green is insane. Like, we stood there, we watched guys get rejected repeatedly. If you stand behind the green from where you're going to chip, the green is twice as tall as you, if not higher than that. Like, it's
way higher.
And then the pin
that's the only one that I think you can actually see that it's like slopey and the triple what you see on TV.
Yeah,
that's the only one that you could really see.
And both times he missed long to a back pin when the pin was maybe 5 paces off the back. Like, he made par on both of those. He had to make 15-foot putts, but even giving yourself a 15-foot putt there is impressive. He could have made a lot of people made double bogey from back there. So that's a 4-shot swing, in my opinion, the way he got up and down on 8. Obviously, he wins by 1, so that's crucial. But I was stunned. And then it comes down to 18. The bunker shot he hit was amazing, obviously. But his short game won him the tournament. And if you had told me that Bryson DeChambeau was going to win any tournament because of his short game, I would have never believed you. Like, it wasn't his amazing driving that won him this tournament. It helped him a lot. It gave him a head start. But Bryson winning with his short game is incredible to me, especially with what we just saw at Augusta only 2 months ago. And now for me, that almost changes my perspective on Bryson entirely for the rest of his career, because if he can get up and down, if he can scramble like this, he's starting on second base, maybe third base on every course he plays with his driving. It was not what I expected, and it really changed my perspective on him almost entirely.
Truthfully, I think it's more impressive that Bryson getting up and down on 8, 10, and 18 from the positions that he was in than Rory missing those 2 putts. Those were, truthfully, I would say Rory would miss those 2 putts more often than you get those 3 shots up and down, given the magnitude of the situation. And I'm not even kidding you. Those up and downs are jokes. No one is doing that 3 times in a row. Number 8, we just talked about it. Behind the green, it's 3 times his height to a downsloping green. Impossible. And I tweeted out, going over the green on 8 is going to dictate the tournament for better or for worse. It ultimately was a factor in that. 10, on the left side to a left pin over a bunker on the corner, had to land it in a 3-yard radius to get it to within 15 feet. That was probably one of the easier ones. And then 18, we all know what he did on 18. 55-yard bunker shot. Truthfully, 1%. 1% what he did, getting all 3 of those up and down. Yeah.
Legitimately incredible. Like, it's just not what I think of Bryson. Like, he's fine around the greens, and he's always been a solid putter, but not necessarily on Bermuda as much. If you had told me that Bryson was going to gain 8 shots with his short game, then I think everybody in the world would have nuked Bryson, because, again, like I said, he gets the head start off the tee. The approach play was fine. It's not amazing. I think his advantage, 17 was a great example. He played 17 very well. He made birdie on it on Saturday. He made an easy par, almost birdie in the final round. Like, people talk about his irons, because when his 9-iron is like the loft of a 7-iron or something like that. And people always get up in arms. They're like, oh,
opposite.
And they're saying how when he hits 9-iron, like, it shouldn't count as a 9-iron because of the lofts. And it's like, it's clearly an advantage for him. He hits it so much higher than everybody else does with his irons. And I don't care what the lofts are. Like, the way he designs his clubs, whatever it is for him, his iron play, especially versus Rory, like, it's really, really good. It's not amazing. He's not throwing darts very often, but on the longer holes, when he needs to hit a 200-yard shot or whatever, he hits it to 15, 20 feet so consistently, and the ball flight's incredibly consistent. Like, Rory was flaring things. His ball flight never looked great out there. Bryson, it's his strength. I don't know how he swings so hard, yet the ball goes straight every single time with the irons. It doesn't really make sense, to be honest with you. Like, even the short game, his angles on his chips, it doesn't look right. I think it has something to do with his clubs, the way he designs them. It's weird. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, and you can just say like, oh, why doesn't Rory, why doesn't Brooks, why doesn't anyone just use like these types of lofts to get a higher clubs? They can't. It's because Bryson. It's a combination of his swing speed and his angle of attack to replicate the RPMs on the ball to get it to spin and apex at a certain height. So it's not just like anyone could pick up these clubs and like have that same advantage. It's not. It's science. He's not crazy. He's been doing it for a reason for so long, and this has been a story for so long. But that's why he can do it and other guys can't. And it's clearly an advantage. Like I talked about how important apex height was, because just over 72 holes, you're going to hold X amount more greens than the field. Bryson did that, I guess, a lot more than Rory. I mean, 15 is a great example of it. But at the end of the day, that was just a strokes gained caddy decision, which I want to get into at some point. And yeah, again, proper winner.
Yeah, his ability, I think, also in these clutch moments where it's important. We saw it at the back nine of the PGA because he played really good in the final round. Obviously, the PGA, he didn't play his best yesterday, but he played solidly enough, obviously, to win. His ability to just go full bore on every swing and still get the ball flight. The driver wasn't as accurate yesterday. Maybe it was because he had to switch out the head.
It was worse in the field, I think.
Yeah, he couldn't hit the fairway, but his ability to go full bore at irons, even short irons, and not have them go offline is a huge advantage, because when you get under pressure, just being able to swing out of your shoes kind of takes some of the pressure off of you versus having to flight things. And I think we saw that a lot with Rory, where he was kind of in between. Those change-up shots obviously aren't his cup of tea. But yeah, Bryson, more than a deserving winner. He's been great in the majors this year. I think a few weeks ago we talked about the US Open. We didn't think it made sense for Bryson because of the short game. I think once we got there, we started to see more of a path, but I still didn't necessarily trust him around the greens or with the putter on Bermuda. Both were excellent.
Are you mad that you weren't on him?
No, like I said, I talked about him a fair amount. I took Brooks at the top of the board, but if I was going to take another player at the top of the board, it would have been Bryson. Like we talked about that there. You even asked me on Wednesday, like, why aren't you betting Bryson? Because I had talked a reason each time we were walking around. I was like, this makes sense for Bryson. I didn't trust the short game, and like that was my belief, and so I can't really have regrets, and it was something that like I took a stand on, and he simply greatly outperformed the short game aspect than I thought he was going to. So I can live with that. He putted great. He was clutch. All the things you need to do to win a US Open. Picks up his second US Open win. We gave him 10 minutes. I think that's fair enough, because what people want to know is about Rory McIlroy and what took place for him out there. I've been on the record going into all majors for a long time now that I don't think he ever wins another major. But on the 13th hole, Matt, I thought it was going to happen. I basically thought it was his. It wasn't his. You want to talk about 15 to start with, because obviously what everybody's going to remember is those putts on 16 and 18, the short misses. But with that said, he still gained 2.2 putting in the final round. So you can blame his putter, but he also wouldn't have even been in that position if he didn't make a lot of long putts leading up to that point.
Yeah, I'm not going to blame his putter.
Yeah, goes up by 2 on 13. Didn't play 14 cleanly, missed left, but got it up and down pretty routinely. Then gets to 15 and goes long there, which is basically guaranteed bogey. We talked about strokes gained caddy. We talked about strokes gained preparation. We saw poor preparation from Rory when we were there. He looked unfocused, kind of just out there for fun, maybe not taking the same level of focus and caddy like prep that we were seeing from other players. You were on him. You saw the results. I think you want to point some fingers. The stage is yours.
Yeah, first off, I'm not going to blame his putter. Second off, we talked about strokes gained caddy so much during the week, and it was a massive point of our handicapping. And I knew that going into the event that Rory's caddy maybe lost him a few tournaments in the last 5 years for sure, but everything else for his golf game, I loved. And I mean, no one was going to be perfect going into this event, so got to make choices. And Rory wasn't perfect in that department with the strokes gained caddy. But I'm going to start with 5. Hole 5, he obviously is a par 5 that he didn't play well this week. In the middle of the fairway, you saw him hit what people were calling a perfect shot to the middle of the green. We were there. We saw that hole so many times. That has to be discussed. I mean, I'm sure it was discussed, but if you're Harry, I don't know how you have to say, Rory, this cannot be missed short. If this is short, this is going to get rejected left. And I know he got a bad break going into the footprint, whereas Cantlay was in the bunker. They both ended up making par and 6. But even if it did go into the bunker, that's such a hard up and down. If you're Harry, you have to say, Rory, if you're going for this green in 2, this has to fly to the middle of the green and go over the back and much easier up and down, or you have to bail out right. This cannot miss.
Yeah,
short.
basically, if you drew a line up the middle of the green and then like halfway horizontally, there's like a triangle basically like this, where if you ended up on the left side, it was never going to get up there.
Yeah. So left was 110% dead all week. Throw in a left pin that makes it 250% dead. Just take it out completely. If Rory would have hit a pitching wedge to lay up, I would have loved that more than, because I knew as soon as he hit it, the shot has to be so perfect or out to the right to even have. I was like, he's not going to have a great look for eagle.
He knew it too. Like he was leaning.
Yes, he said go. Yes. So okay, it looked great on TV, and then he ended up making 6. Horrible decision. That's one for the Strickland caddy. And then on 15, it looked like Rory, probably by himself, decided to hit a flighted down 7-iron. Looked like he was trying to land it in that bank to like kind of what Pavone did, to have it like pop up and have like would have been the perfect fancy shot to 15 feet for birdie. Time and place, Rory. Time and place. Is that what we're trying to do? We're trying to hit a flighted shot. You got adrenaline. So if you fly that bank a little bit, that's landing in the middle of the green. That has never once standing. Club down. He hit a 7-iron. Why not hit a hard 8-iron? Put it to 30 feet. You 2-putt. You make it easy par. And I mean, his chip on 15 was truthfully tremendous. Hooded the wedge a little bit. Got it to curve back. He had like a 20-foot putt for 30-foot putt for par, which is like the best possible outcome. Obviously, he didn't make it, but what is that decision right there? Why are we hitting a flighted down 7-iron? Because I don't think he hit it thin. I look like he tried to flight it down to land it in front of the bank. That's my thought. Why? Truthfully, why? So those are 2 decisions that costed him. It's a 3-shot swing. And truthfully, you can say those 2 missed putts. Like he makes those putts 99 times out of 100. It's golf. Shit happens. But that's like, it happens. I'm talking about the actual decision making that you have control over. He didn't have to go for that green in 2. And if you were going to have to go for that green in 2, go long. He didn't have to hit that flighted shot into 15. The putts or whatever, like it's gravy. He made some long putts in the tournament. It is what it is. I'm obviously mad, but it is what it is. The decision making is what I'm mad about.
He also, this one, I could see both sides of it, but because he was driving it so accurately, but he didn't need to rip driver on 18 either. You could have hit a 3.
I'm not mad about that, but
3 wood, got it in the fairway, but he had the left miss in play basically as soon as he took the lead, because he went left on 14. He went long on 15, but long and left kind of fall in the same bucket of just holding onto the club a little bit too much, too much adrenaline. A thing that I think was highly noticeable between the 2 of them, with it being largely, I think it was pretty clear it was going to be Bryson versus Rory around like the 12th, 13th hole. Cantlay was kind of hanging on. Finau was there. Pavone was, doing Pavone things. But Bryson, from day one, was so into the crowd. Good or bad, didn't matter. He showed you exactly how his emotions were feeling the whole time. Like every single shot, emotion. Rory was making some huge putts through the first 12 holes, like insane. That's why I was like, Rory's actually going to finally win. Like, this is amazing.
On hole 1.
He never makes these putts. His reaction was always so muted. It was a little fist pump. Like, okay, like here we go. Like just the looking at the vibe difference between a guy who's just embracing everything that's happening, just like living in the moment, versus the clear tightness of a guy who almost maybe himself is like, I can't believe the putts are finally actually going in for me. Like, this is finally happening. It was just such a stark difference in vibe between the 2 of them over the last 6 holes, of a guy just riding the wave, good or bad. Because even when Bryson would miss, he would like fall to his knees with devastation. Like, he was giving you every bit of emotion. And who knows? You can't go in their heads, like what works better for which guys and whatnot. But when you see them, the 2 vast differences between the players down the stretch, the guy who wins and the guy who loses, I think there's just something to be said about 10 years of history on Rory's back down that stretch, and him just feeling a little bit more of that pressure than Bryson, who is just like, live or die. I'm giving it everything I've got out here. Like, this is the most important day of my life. That, to me, outside of any of the decisions, which I totally agree with, and the putts, was one of the things that jumped out the most to me, just vibes related.
Yeah, I agree. And I forget who it was. It might have been one of the broadcasters. They said, I just saw Bryson in the fairway. He said, I'm giving it everything I got. And I mean, unbelievable from Bryson. I'm happy for him. Got his second US Open. Best major in a long time. This was a fun watch. I mean, I fell to the floor. on 18 after Rory missed that slider. It hurt me. I can't imagine how he's feeling right now. I know he won a cool 2.5 mil and has a great life, but he's a competitive guy, and that surely hurt. Tough scene.
I have a surprising declaration. I now believe that Rory wins another major in his career. I know it's been 45 some majors. I've been on the record saying he doesn't win one, but I think it's going to be a US Open because this is now 5-6 US Opens in a row with a massive off the tee advantage. If you can drive the ball long and straight at the US Open, you literally are starting on somewhere between second and third base. And we've now seen Rory with 6 straight top 10 finishes in the US Open. Like, he's really figured out how to play the US Opens. 2 straight years. He barely does anything on approach and gets beat by 1 shot by bombers effectively, like Windy and Bryson. His style of play, the way he's driving, just sets up so good for these US Opens. He's going to win one by accident. Like, he almost won this one by accident. He did basically he made all the mistakes you could possibly make and still almost won. I am canceling he never wins another major. I saw a lot of people now changing their takes to say he never wins a major. I'm going to go the opposite way here and say that he builds upon this. It's going to hurt for a little bit, but I think he's smart. He'll look back and say, the US Open is my opportunity now. It's not Augusta. It's not the PGA. It's not the Open. Obviously, he wants Augusta, and the Open just fits him well because his history on the links. I think the future is still bright enough, even in this dark moment.
Happy to hear it. His driving was a joke this week. It was like laughable to watch how good it was. It was every hole too.
He gained 7.2 off the tee, which
you said, like, he can gain 8 off the tee so easily here. You literally said that.
Yeah. And so he almost gained 8. The next closest guy was Lud, who gained 5.2. So, I mean, it's like a joke what he's doing. That's such a head start that you can literally miss 2 3-foot putts and still probably win the tournament if you don't make the stupid mistakes that you talked about. Like, yeah, those putts, I mean, the one on 16, it's like, that was the worst. You have to make that. Like,
I mean, it was either 3 putt.
A dead straight 2.5-foot putt. The one on 18 at least was a slider. You could say that his chip to leave himself above the hole there was probably more of a mistake than the actual putt itself. If he would have left himself the Bryson putt, he probably makes it.
It was still a good chip. It was the tee shot that got him in the mistake. Yep. I'm not mad,
especially for a guy who hit 82% of his fairways to miss the fairway on 18 in that moment. Not what you're looking.
Yeah, I mean, and then we talked. That's like one of the easier drives too. We saw, and he tried to hit a big high cut, which is not a shot he really hit a lot. He hit that big high fade and the low cut a lot. So, I mean, it was the right shot shape. He just pulled it a little bit, and he got one of the poor breaks in the pine straw that we didn't really see.
Yeah, I think the sandy zones of uncertainty played exactly how we expected the sandy zones of uncertainty to play. I would say 80% of the times guys got playable, good enough shots. Still never better than the fairway. Like, you're always going to be in better position in the fairway, but like, you were fine most of the time. For some reason, like, Brandel and the announcers were like, I cannot believe that it's another good like. And it's like, yeah, it's every time the ball's hitting these hard clumps and plinkoing and ending up next to them. And that happened a lot. We saw a few times guys got boned. Bryson finally got boned on 12 and had to go out sideways there. I hope, like, Pinehurst was so sick. It's great that they're going to be going back there every 5 years. You're the botanical guy. You were there. You got to feel with your water bottles. You might need to get boots on the ground maybe in a couple years and help them in the sandy zones of uncertainty, because I would like to see guys get mega boned a little bit more often when we come back in a few years.
Yeah, I'm excited. That was unbelievable. Pinehurst, I mean, I saw a lot of people shitting on Pinehurst too. Non-ball knowers, absolute non-ball knowers. So I'm not even going to pay them the time of day because they're non-ball knowers. Unbelievable major. I'm glad I had a really, really, really unbelievable sweat. I'm happy with my Rory bet. It was kind of a hot take to pick Rory again. Not many guys were on him, so happy I went that route. So, but yeah, I'm going to take probably 5 more hours to recover, and then we're on to Travelers. Actually, no, 2 minutes. We're on to Travelers soon.
Yeah, we'll be on Travelers in like 5 to 10 minutes. Let's fly down the board quickly. Some other guys, because there's a lot of interesting things I think that happened outside of the top 2 names. Big Tone T3. Shout out to Big Tone. He actually gained with the putter. Played good on Bermuda. I think his ball striking's been great, but I didn't necessarily expect him to putt very well. I don't think he putted very well over the weekend. But Big Tone continues to flush it. Big Tone. Here's a question. Because Cantlay was a guy who we saw looking suspect for the first 2 days. He had looked suspect all year in practice rounds when we had seen him. He never looked good. He did look a little bit better on Wednesday. He was hitting more greens in. It makes sense as a Cantlay course when it's going to come down to short game and putting, which is his area of expertise. He tends to bring that every single week. Tony and Pat finished T3. Who do you think is more likely to win a major now in their career between Tone and Pat?
Pat, honestly, I'll say Pat. You say Tone?
No, I think I'm going to say Pat. Just because
honestly, Pat could have been there. He missed so many 5-foot putts, like a lot.
Like, he went from at the start of the round, his iron play was really off. Like Brandel was all over his iron play.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, around like the 6th hole, he started to stripe his irons, and then he couldn't make any of the putts, but he was making every par putt. It was one of those classic, like, that's what happens to a guy who has no dog, which Cantlay rarely has. Every now and then, Cantlay has a lot of dog, but most of the time he doesn't, especially in majors. The par putts were going in, but then when he had the birdie putts that were going to bump him up into a tie for the leader right there, none of those would fall. But I think you and I are some of the biggest Pat fans out there. I know a lot of people don't like him. I actually have to say one thing on that. I saw a tweet from somebody with a reasonable following who was like, the least that Pat could do is like acknowledge the crowd or tip his hat. Bullshit. Cantlay on the ground is a top 5 player in acknowledging the crowd. I promise you. Like, what good does it do me to defend Cantlay? Like, I'm just telling you what I see when we're there. Wouldn't you agree that no one, like, he looks you in the eye, he tips his cap, he says thank you. He's not like fist pumping and going fucking crazy, but he acknowledges the crowd in a way that a lot of players don't.
Yeah, like nine players, not 9, probably 6 players out of 10 won't say anything. They'll just keep your head down and keep going. Pat will always give you a nod. Pat will show the respect. Good guy, Pat. Like we love him. He gets so much hate, and solely because of his pace of play. And it's like we've had this conversation. It's not even the worst on tour. Sure, he's a slow player. It is what it is. It's golf. Pat is fine. I love Pat. Just clip it.
Shout out to Pavs, because Pavs has been playing absolutely horrible lately.
Right. 500 to 1.
He'd been playing terrible. Like he was playing awful. He had shot in the 70s at both. I mean, he shot a 77 at Valhalla. I could shoot 77 at Valhalla. Like that's an incredible score. He lost 11 strokes total at Valhalla. And then he lost in 2 rounds. And then he lost 4 strokes in 2 rounds at Memorial. And then he finishes 5th at the US Open. Like,
and was there from the jump. It wasn't the back door. Yeah. It was Thursday to Sunday.
And he was doing a little bit of everything. He gained across the board. Obviously, he putted really good the first couple of rounds. That's what like got him up there. Yeah. But Pavs definitely isn't the mayor of Tempo Town. Chris Kirk is the mayor of Tempo Town. Yeah. But Pavs is on like the city council, or he has a high position in Tempo Town, because he just hits that fade so consistently, and his tempo is so pure. I love Pavs, and it was great to see him up there.
Just he plays his game. He knows he's got that one shot. Why do anything that you can? And yeah, it was working, and it's good to see him playing well. He's fun to watch. He's a funny guy with his sleeves and his caddy. Crazy that he was 500 to 1 and Ryan Fox was 170 to 1. That was my take.
My thing to remember on Pavs going forward, first of all, is watch out for him this week, because when he won Farmers, he almost won Pebble the very next week. So when Pavs gets the Pavs is a vibes guy. You ride Pavs when Pavs is hot. Like, I don't see any reason why Pavs can't mix again this week. His win at the Open de España in October came after a T6. So like Pavs historically on the DP, when Pavs is hot, you ride Pavs. So that's a Travy note. Ride Pavs. When it's just straight holes, when you don't have to shape it, that's when Pavs is good, because he can just hit his fade and hit it consistently. Torrey's a good example of that. All the holes are kind of straightforward. This is right in front of you. Pavs when it's straight in front of you. Pavs on Bermuda. Pavs when you need to make a lot of putts. Mark it down. Remember it. Hideki did what he should do. Shout out Russell Henley. I was on Henley simply because I thought he would make a ton of putts on Bermuda. He led the field in putting. I think if things had, he finished his T7. He played great in the final round. He was coming there in the final round. I think if it had played firmer throughout the week, I would have felt better about that Henley bet. Like, he did what I wanted Henley to do, which was gain 10 strokes with his short game. Just couldn't keep up with the ball striking. Let's talk Ludvig.
What do you make his odds at Wyndham, Henley's?
Minus 400.
I was going to say.
Assuming, actually, I have Horschel, Glover, and Henley all minus 200, and then everybody else is 200 to 1, so that I can get the right vig in my market.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ludvig, I think we nailed our Ludvig takes, that we were worried about the short game. We were worried about the around the green play. Obviously, the driving, the ball striking is immense. Like, that's going to travel most places. The putting is good. When it was a little softer in the first 2 rounds, life was great for Ludvig. He was hitting every green. He was having an unbelievable ball striking performance. As soon as it became a little bit more difficult to hit the greens, that's when it started to go wrong for Ludvig. A great performance, but I never, even when he had the lead going into the weekend, thought he had any chance to win.
Ludvig's first US Open at Pinehurst is a great thing for his career. He's going to get to the next US Open site to be like, what the hell? What? This is where we're playing? And they asked him in his pre-tournament interviews, what's the hardest course you ever played? And he said Pinehurst when he was here for a US Amateur a few years back. So Ludvig's back. He played tremendously. Like, what he did from tee to green on Thursday and Friday was like truly a joke. Like, I know the fairways were wide and the greens were big, but you don't just hit 95% of fairways and greens like first 2 rounds.
Yeah, at any course. Like,
no, any course.
Yeah.
Like, insane. I was like, wow. And then, but even when he was missing those few fairways and greens, he was making those par putts on Friday. I was like, okay, Ludvig, like, this isn't going to hold for Saturday and Sunday. It blew up in his face rather quickly on Saturday. But like, if 24-year-old in your first major, point and shoot, he looked confident out there. He looked like he was having a good time. No, I always like Ludvig. I'm really happy to see him coming out on the stage again in another major. Obviously, the PGA wasn't great. Like, whenever you're on Ludvig, he's your worst guy. He's your worst guy for sure.
I have zero personal beef with Ludvig. Like, I truly respect his vibe and his game. Like, he's a cool guy. Like, I have zero. I like him. Like, I like him as a person. Yeah. He fucks me betting every time. Like, if he had won, I'd have been so upset because I was just on him at Memorial. He played pretty good, but for him to be like out to this lead, he always hits every fairway when I don't bet him. He always misses every fairway when I bet him. So that's why I dislike him, but it's nothing personal. I like Lud. I will stand by my take that he needs a good caddy. Scoburn's not getting the job for him. I believe Scoburn is an overrated caddy. We saw that up on 13. What do we do in there? That probably cost him the tournament. Strokes gained caddy. I'm not buying the Scoburn stock. I said it on Monday that I was on the fence about him. And until otherwise, I'm out. And that's my take.
And a lot of the times he was making the right choice too. But 13, and also quick note on 13, Bryson not going for the green on Saturday, and people like kind of shit on him. 110% the right take, because the way the number's set up, he was probably going to be a little short of that green. And if you're in that dicey danger 40 to 50 yard zone, that's staring at a bogey. So, and he ended up making a birdie from the bunker, but I just wanted to say he got a lot of shit for not going for the green on Saturday. Was the right call to not go for the green.
Shout out Neil Ship, low am. Neil Ship was on the struggle bus in the practice rounds, like hard. We thought he finished last place. So shout out to Neil, strokes gained dog for him. I was on Brooks. Brooks couldn't make any putts. Brooks putted terribly. He gained a reasonable amount tee to green. He was 13th tee to green. I would have been happy if you'd have told me that. He was putting good in the practice rounds. He had that egregious 4-putt on the 3rd on Friday. They kind of got him out of it. So Brooks lets me down there. Let's talk about, though, Scottie. We saw Scottie hitting it off the planet in the practice rounds. We said this is not a Scottie course. Jers, people were saying that no course in the history of golf was better for Scottie than this course. Do those people need to apologize?
Yeah, I mean, you waited all year to bet Scottie at plus 280. I mean, I know he was plus 700, 500, 400, 300. You got him at his absolute peak. Didn't go well. We both knew that it wasn't a Scottie course. I tried to bet the no at minus 400, but I couldn't find the line. So yeah, I set Scottie's line at T28, which he didn't even accomplish. So yeah, we got Scottie right, and we've been good at getting Scottie right or wrong. We set players lock. We get Scottie right at Masters lock. PGA. No.
Yeah, I think we have good Scottie. I think we understand Scottie. I think we have the Scottie senses. We know he has looked worse in practice rounds this year, except for players. He was fucking at players. Last year in the practice rounds, I never saw him hit a bad shot. Both Valhalla,
except for the Open.
Except for the Open, and that's when he didn't play good. He didn't look good. Like, JT was hitting it better than him. JT obviously shot a million, but like, he wasn't hitting it good, and he didn't hit it good in the first couple of rounds. He ended up hitting it better over the weekend. He couldn't make any putts, but at the end of the day, and he even said in his interviews, he was like, I couldn't hit it close to the hole. no one was going to hit it close to the hole. Scottie was going to have to make putts. He putted worse than I expected him. I still thought he'd finish top 10 just because it's Scottie and like, what's the worst Scottie could finish? I was surprised he finished as low down as he did. But yeah, that's the value, I think, of Boots. That's a value of not getting like too biased by recent form, because Memorial is a place where Scottie plays off the charts, unbelievable, amazing every single time. So is API, so is Augusta. Scottie's a great player. Obviously, I'm not going to like shit on Scottie overall. He hasn't quite yet proved to me that like in every type of conditions, that's his type of golf, because I still think the putter is a little bit of a liability. My question to wrap up the US Open, and I think it's an interesting question that seems obvious, but I don't necessarily think that it is. Scottie has 2 Masters now. Bryson has 2 US Open. So two each, but they're in separate ones. Which player wins a major that they don't have? So for Scottie, that would be US Open, PGA, or Open. And for Bryson, it'd be Open, Masters, or PGA. Who wins one of those first?
It's a great question. I'm going to go with Scottie to win one, just because I think he is overall more well-rounded and better golfer. This short game thing from Bryson was kind of an anomaly. And I mean, hopefully it's a new thing, because I love Bryson. But like, I've been banging the Bryson at Augusta drum for like 5 years now. I've always thought it fit him well, but I will just say it's probably Scottie.
I'm going to go Bryson. I don't think either of them are a huge threat at the Open. I think Scottie's probably a better threat at the Open than Bryson is, for sure. But Bryson fits Augusta for sure. Like, we've saw it. If he can, if his short game can do what he did here at Augusta,
Right.
he will win. Like, that's the thing about Bryson, is he can gain 6-8 strokes off the tee with his distance at certain places, and Scottie can gain a lot off the tee, but he doesn't hit it quite as far. Scottie obviously a better iron player. Bryson's a better putter. And if Bryson can break even around the greens, like, I like Bryson so much now at Augusta and PGAs, where obviously Scottie fucks at Augusta, but I don't love him as much at PGAs in more easy scoring conditions. Like Quail, Scottie's never even played Quail. Like, he clearly isn't that excited about getting to Quail and playing there. I like Quail for Bryson. So I'll take, even though I'd probably get plus odds in like the market, I think Bryson can sneak ahead of Scottie in the major count. Like, Scottie could win the Masters every year for the rest of the time.
That's not part of the game.
Yeah, but like new major, I'll actually go Bryson, which I wasn't thinking coming into this week.
I thought it was funny with Scottie this week, like in the first 2 rounds playing with Rory and Xander, like him hitting first into greens, like every hole was so funny, because like Xander is like long as fuck now, and then obviously Rory. So it was just funny, like seeing Scottie being the beta in that group of 3 off the tee.
Yeah, and that's what leads to Travy. I think Scottie is much more likely to win this week than he was there. Like, he's going to have a vengeance. I wrote that he might shoot 59 this week just to prove a point. He only made 4 birdies last week, so he might make like 16 birdies in the first round just to prove a point to people, because his short iron play has been off the charts. Like, he's number 1 in the model this week. He was not number 1 in the model for the first time in a long time at the US Open. But we get a course this week, Jers, that to me is an accuracy iron play, but most importantly, spike putting course. And we get a course that has made some changes since last year. They decided to they want to make the course more difficult. Effectively, after the tournament last year, the heads of the tournament came out and said, like, we don't want it to be a birdie fest. Like, we want this to be like a reasonable test. We're going to make it more difficult. I don't really know if they need to do that, but if that's what they want to do, that's great.
I don't know how they can do that, really.
Basically, they narrowed down some fairways and they shrunk some greens. So I think they're going to try to reemphasize accuracy a little bit, because the last couple of years we've seen the GIR percentage like go up. It was usually like high 60s, and last couple of years it's been like 71 and 73%. So I think they're going to try to lower that a little bit, and it should be a little firmer this year because it was really wet last year. It might rain a little bit on the weekend this year, but it's hot-ish. It's hot as shit in New York. Like, the weather's been pretty nice for a while now. I think they want to get around the greens, the scrambling a little bit more in play, because when the greens firm up at Travy, they can put some really tough pins on ridges and in spots that make
like
it difficult.
Sawgrass.
Yeah, so I think and that's Sawgrass, number 2 comp on the week up there with Harbortown. Scottsdale's up there as well. That's why Scottie's probably going to wreck us this week. But I think we see a little bit more difficult Travy this year, and I think I'm leaning a little bit more on the short game than I have been in recent Travys. How are you thinking about the week? What are the profiles that you're after?
Yeah, it's one of the courses that you can have really any style of game to compete. But I think with this field going elevated, I think I'm going to take a massive look to just total driving, long and straight, because you could cut a lot of corners, and if Zach Blair, Russell Henley, those guys are hitting every fairway, and then you got like a Cantlay, Rory, Xander, Scottie hitting every fairway 50 yards further, obviously you'd want be 50 yards further. And you could do that. Like, remember when Rory was hitting every fairway for Thursday and Friday of Travelers, the year Xander won, and was up by 4 or 5 until he hooked one left on 12? Like, there is a clear path for a bomber to bomb away on this course if they're dialed. You can't spray it and be all over the course, but you could take some crazy lines, even if you're in the rough a little bit, and get a wedge up there. So this course is very short. I think I'm going to go with the total driving this week.
Yeah, no, total driving is in the model at a high weight. I saw the same thing, like looking at some of the previous profiles too, like Keegan was good. And you don't have to be a bomber, but I would like a guy who's like positive accuracy and distance. Give me positive accuracy and distance.
Yeah.
The thing about the bombers that is useful is, and we saw this with Rory a couple of years ago, and Xander does it too here, they can just hit their 3-wood off the tee on like every hole here, and then they're in the fairway every time. So like,
right,
it's strength and
then
power.
and then the driver holes they can rip
nuke. Yeah.
Like
so definitely
hole 9, the dogleg right where they take it over the houses.
Yeah. So they moved the tee on 9 to try to cut down on that angle.
Really?
That was one of the changes that they made. Yeah.
Okay. It's a liability to the fans because guys miss it right.
Yeah. So Travy's a sick tournament because everybody's in play. I think it's a hard tournament to handicap because everybody's in play.
It really is.
And like we've seen, I wrote about it on the site, like the spike putting. A lot of times when you have a spike putting tournament, you get guys coming in who had good spike putting coming in, and then they spike. Guys have spike putting here with no good stats. Like it's almost a vibe based putting. Like you need to be a good putter, but like it's hard to know who's going to putt well here. So take some shots. Do you think? I mean, we'll get into the board in a second, but are you leaning a card top of the board focused, or because it's so wide open, we had 80-1 Keegan win here last year? Are you going to build a bigger card? Also, no, we're not boots on the ground, and we'd love to have somebody in the mix, and that's when I tend to want to have more guys.
Well, we will. Oh yeah, you say we're going to be boots on the ground?
Yeah, for the tournament. For the tournament. Yeah. Also, we don't want no boots on the ground coverage pre-tournament. This is purely to go watch golf and hang out. Trav.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely leaning with a guy from the top of the board, like sub 20-1. I can get myself to either Ludvig or Collin. I just love that Ludvig is just young and playing golf. He's still in the point and shoot mode. I'm still like buying the stock, and it's a fine number on his overall talent. Collin obviously makes so much sense. The putting is surely a question mark, but those are probably my two guys that I can get to in that range.
Yeah. Let's get to the top. Scottie, like we said, I think Scottie's super live this week. I think he is going to be super fucking pissed. I'm actually mad that he played so bad at the US Open, even though I kind of wanted it to happen from like a content perspective. I didn't want him to care about this tournament. What's your Scottie take? Because I think he's like going to be super pissed, and he's played really good here before. And he's played good here before without making any putts, and I think his putting last week was an anomaly. I think he gains putting again, and he probably finishes top 3, and he probably wins.
Yeah, he's played good here before he became Scottie Scheffler, like when he was younger. Yeah, just like I love literally like Sawgrass. Like it's a narrower fairway conditions, but if you're long and straight hitting every fairway, he's got no more. Like I remember his like round 1 or round 2 recap for no, I think it was actually round 4. One of the rounds for Sawgrass, they were asking him, "Do you remember what club you hit in every hole?" I think he said 60-degree wedge on like 15 of the holes. He just hit a wedge into every single hole because he was just that long and straight. And that's the same exact path here. Like if Scottie's hitting every fairway, he's elite with inside 120 yards and then get out with the putter.
Yeah, I mean like
down.
Prox 50 to 125. Scottie's first in the field. Prox 125 to 150. He's fourth. The only other guy who's top 5 in both, of course, the great Tom Hoagie, and then Russ Henley and Lucas Glover. So Scottie like is a position. He has a positional player profile. He's good everywhere, but like he's better at these courses because it fits perfectly into his game. If you can win at Harbor Town and Sawgrass in the same year, you can easily win Travelers. So Scottie's live as he's ever been this week. Xander or Rory, who are you going with? Rory on the bounce back, or Xander just fucks you every time and didn't play great last week?
It's actually, this is one of the tougher Xander versus Rory questions because obviously Xander loves these kinds of courses. Rory has had mixed results in these kind of courses. I could see a Rory. We'll know early. Rory will be either head down and pissed off the rip or off rip, where Xander, he's going to play well. Like Xander's floor is so high, whereas Rory has more of a range of outcomes. That's a really tough question. I'll go with Xander just because like I've been high on Xander so much this year, so I'll pick Xander. But it's not a strong. I'm not gonna bet it a matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I have a hard time picking between them. I think on the question of does Rory show up like focused and ready to want to win, or just doesn't give a shit, I think he's going to show up wanting to win. For some reason, when I think of Rory like messing up his next tournament for whatever reason in my mind, I imagine him playing good. I could totally be making that up, but that's just a vibe that I feel like I remember. It's such a straightforward course for him. I just don't see how he doesn't shoot like 3 or 4 under. And that's the same with Xander. Like that's why it's tough to choose between them. I don't think Rory just shows up and like completely mails it in. I could totally understand if he does, and I like it's not like I'd be shocked if he did. But if I had to give a take, I think Rory shows up and plays reasonably well. You mentioned Ludvig and Collin. I agree at 16 that both of those numbers are reasonable. I like Collin a solid. I'm surprised Collin 16. Like this is a great course for Collin. He's been driving it so straight. I think it's because he hasn't played great here before, but all of that has been because of his short game. Like he struggled around the greens and on the greens here. His short game's his thing now. He's great with his short game. I think Collin, he gained again with the short game last week. He continues to hit every single fairway. Like, how does Collin not finish top 10 here and be firmly in the mix? I don't really understand.
It's funny. It's like I always want Collin. Like everyone wants Collin at Sawgrass. Everyone wants Collin at Harbor Town, Colonial. These positional courses, and he's got like fine results, but like his best results are on like sometimes big boy tracks. Like and it's the opposite. Like Ludvig and Scottie, like they fuck at these like shorter tracks. Whereas like their build makes sense for this positional game, but like they playing better in these like tougher conditions, longer courses. So that's gonna make me like lean with Ludvig, even though like the results are better for Ludvig on these shorter tracks most of the time, but the profile makes better for Collin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Collin's third round at Pine was electricity. Yeah. He gained 8 strokes total. It was the second best round of his entire career.
Yeah, like it was incredible.
He played really. He played bad in the second round, which was the only thing that kind of derailed him. But him and Brooks were in the same group. They both started good, and then they didn't play good in the second round, and then they played okay over the weekend. Collin played better, but I think people will be off of Collin because of his stats here historically. I just think he's playing fantastic golf right now and sets up well for him. I worry like Ludvig's and my takes on Ludvig don't even matter because like whatever I say about Ludvig, the opposite is going to happen. I totally agree though that his short positional like record speaks for itself, and this is a course that should totally make sense for him. He played here last year early in his career, played fine, finished T24. It's another course where I'd worry about the short game a little bit. Like most winners
he will
here
hit every fairway, and he will hit so many greens.
Yeah, his ball strike, he'll gain 8+ with his ball striking. Like I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if he gets it up and down quite enough times to win. And so if I had to bet somebody to win at 16-1, I'd probably go Collin just because I trust Collin to win this type of event more. If I actually had to say who I think finishes higher, like over 10 tournaments here, I might go Ludvig just because like he's going to gain so much with the ball striking. But both intriguing options, and you could bet both if you wanted to at 16-1. Vic is 20. Vic got eviscerated by Pinehurst, which I don't think we were surprised by with what we saw. I mean, the man there wasn't a second. We saw him a lot. We saw Vic a reasonable amount at Pine. He was within 1 foot of Joe Mayo, like fidgeting around and talking about everything that exists in the world and like in deep thought every step of the course. No one else does that. I've never seen anything like that in my life. The short game's still not there. What's the state of the union on Vic? And at 20-1, is that a fair number? And of course, that when he's playing well, theoretically makes sense.
I do think it's a fair number. This game is just like a question mark because he was trending in the right direction, looking so solidly, and then I think he just wants to tinker more. Like, okay, how can I do this better now? And like we saw it with our own eyes, he was looking insane, and it really showed fast at Pinehurst. I think he was 3 over like very quickly. So tough to trust, but like this is another like cookie cutter golf course that Victor can just tear apart.
I think the hard part this week is like it's hard to find a guy from the top of the board or not. Like it kind of makes sense for him because like anyone can like it's pretty straightforward course if you're a good golfer. Looking a bit closer, I think I'll take being out on Vic. He's gained a shit ton ball striking here in all 3 starts, and his best finish is T11 because he's lost around the greens and putting in all 3 starts here. His short game remains a problem. I mean, he lost almost 4 strokes in 2 rounds at Pine. These are different around the greens conditions, obviously, than Pine, but like I still need you getting up and down at Travy, especially if I think it plays a little bit harder, which I think it will. And his putting's still just okay right now. Like when Vic is really fucking, it's because his putter is really hot. So of these guys we've talked about so far, I probably trust him the least. In 20-1, yeah, that's a reasonable price, but he was just in the 40s and 50s of these type of events not too long ago. Let's hope he struggles a little bit, drifts, and let's hit him when we get across the P, because that's where Vic will be a threat. I was surprised. We already texted about this, but 25-1 on Pat Cantlay. I expect that number to be absolutely nuked into oblivion. Like Cantlay, you don't have to worry about his long-term form. Once he finds it, he finds it. He played great last week. We know his track record here at Travy. He has finished top 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight years. He probably could have won last year. He probably could have won the year before. What am I missing here? Why is he 25-1?
Yeah, and when I looked at his stat profile, I thought it was going to be all short game for Pinehurst, but he actually hit the ball very respectably. Good to see from Pat. I love Pat. This is a course that you want to run Pat out like early on in the season. So it's good to see him playing well. It makes a ton of sense. Worried he'll be hammered, worried he'll be popular. That's probably the only negative. And another negative, it was one really good week. So that's it.
Yeah, and speaking quickly of the drifters and the movers chart, once again, we have a drifter winner. Bryson drifted 4%. Most of the guys at the top of the board. Scottie moved like 6%, even though he was already like plus 300 start the week. The drifters list does it again, Jers. Every tournament, it's been like, 95% of the tournaments we've talked about. A guy who drifts wins. We've got the odds moving up on the site. We update it every like 6 or 8 hours to find the guys who are drifting. Pat, to me, feels like one of those that makes so much sense in the world. He's going to, like, 25 is going to be a good number on him. It's going to be plus EV. He's going to end up at like 18-1. But for whatever reason, the guys who get nuked, they can't win. I don't know how it works. It just does. So I think I love the concept of Pat, but I'm going to need to see. If for some reason he's not popular and he stays 25-1, then I'm going to nuke it. But I'm just worried about the guys that get hammered, and I know you are too.
Yeah, I agree.
Hideki.
Played here once.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't really know.
What's his number? Like 30?
28.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The guy I want to talk about.
He'll be unpopular, I think.
Yeah, nobody ever bets Hideki for the most part, except when it becomes difficult.
When they do, they hammer him.
Yeah, it's either
they're all or nothing.
Yeah, they are. He was T13 here. I mean, he's going to gain infinity ball striking. He's going to get up and down. I don't know if he makes enough putts, but he looks like top 10 would be the worst that Hideki could finish based on how he's playing. So if he becomes like less popular in things like DFS or placement markets or whatever, because he was so popular last week, hop back on Hideki. He's just playing so great this year, and everything's pretty straightforward for him. The guy I want to talk about, I fancy myself as the Burns Whisperer. I think I continue to earn that title. I don't think I've been that wrong on Burns this year. We were relatively high on him last week. Didn't think he could win, but one of his best major finishes got on the Bermuda, was able to kind of hit it wherever he wants and played well. I think he's going to be popular this week, but I saw 40-1 on Bet365 earlier, Jers, and I have to notify the people. No decision has been made. No triggers have been pulled, but you give me an informed driving, an informed short game, Sam Burns at a course where it's going to be mostly wedges. I'm highly intrigued at around 40-1 on Sam this week.
Yeah, I thought we'd open at 35, so 40 is a good number. Yeah, definitely down for some Sam B. It's not any overwhelmingly good or bad course history. Nothing to steer you off or on him. So maybe if he stays a little under the radar, it can go. We can bet him. But that T9, happy we called his best major performance. So we'll see. We'll see what the market does on Sam B. But he's definitely on the short list as of Monday afternoon.
Yeah, and I mean, he's played good on the courses that I'm looking at this year. T3 in Phoenix, which I think is a good comp. T10 at Riv, which I think is a good comp. Just finishes the best he has in a major. Clearly, I mean, he's gone T10, T15, T9 his last 3 starts, and the Memorial and US Open aren't courses where you'd expect Sam to play really well. So I love anytime you get a guy who just played pretty good in courses that don't make sense for him going to a course that makes a lot of sense for him. At 40-1, he can win for sure. No one would be surprised if Sam Burns won the Travelers. Like, that just makes sense. So eyes on Sam for sure. Overall, How are you thinking about translating the US Open form to this week? I think last year we saw Keegan lost infinity strokes ball striking at
Missed the
LACC,
cut, yeah.
missed the cut, and then won. I tend to think I'm not going to care too much about the US Open form. These courses are vastly different. The skills you need here are vastly different. I tend to say kind of throw out last week. Where are you going on that question? Because I know a lot of people.
I mean, yeah, what did we see? Keegan versus Ches last year down the stretch. I mean, those guys were not in contention at the US Open, obviously short hitters, and then Pat was there too. He wasn't in contention in the US Open at all. I think if you were really in contention like Rory, or there wasn't really that many guys. It was like Rory and Pat that were like had the mental warfare for 4 days. I think that definitely takes a toll on you. Like we saw like Xander take a lot of time off after he won. So, I mean, maybe that's my route to get off Rory, just because he's mentally drained and he was there for 4 days. Not that I was going to be on him in like outright, but any other market. So yeah, I think anyone's live missing a cut last week it doesn't matter at all. It's just a totally different course. Like we just literally saw Keegan miss a cut. We see guys miss cut and win all the time. So yeah, I don't think it's much of a.
Yeah, and I think what people do historically here is they've always pointed to Ches finishing like T3 at the US Open at Pebble and then playing good here and winning. But that makes sense because Pebble's a lot like this course.
Ches.
Yeah, and shortly you're gonna hit more wedges at Pebble than you're gonna hit at most courses. Like this is wedge heavy. So I think if you want to ride the wave of guys who played well, I think that's a reasonable narrative. But for me, I don't really care how you played at the US Open. If you played good, I think you can play good. If you played bad, I think you can play good. It doesn't really matter to me. I am looking for guys who hit a lot of fairways. I think if you're grooving fairways, Sepp was grooving fairways, Ludvig, Rory, Collin, all those guys who are just minting fairways, like bring that form here, you're going to play well. Jers, which is the worst of these bets? Because all three of these numbers seem grotesque to me. Theegs 33, JT 35, Harman 40.
Harman 40 is the worst bet.
No chance.
It's yeah, Harman no chance. He's got absurdly amazing course history, and he finally played well. Makes so much sense. Almost too obvious at 40-1, a major winner. Why would you not want that? Yeah, Harman 40. I think. Yeah, he's the worst bet. I think JT's probably the second worst bet, and I think Theegs is the best bet out of those three.
So I wrote up and I believe this. Like I've gotten boned, get Theegs in the 30s and 20s all year, and I've gotten a lot of good things out of him in like the 70s, 80s. He's 30s again. I mean, obviously he's played well here. What do we do with that information?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough number, and he's in the early leans as well, but I just love that, like the interaction we had with his caddy, and when he said, like, basically in short, he was like, his aggressive style of play is not really going to work at Pine. Like he didn't say that, but that's what he alluded to. That plays at TPC River Highlands. You could be aggressive as hell, and you could put the ball close. So he's finished T2 here before. He's got other poor results, but he's as consistent and complete as he's been in his entire career. And he should be confident heading to a course where he knows, like, okay, hit fairways, be aggressive, point and shoot. Let's go all in. And when he's clicking, it's clicking. It could eject for sure, but which is why 33 is a tough number.
And his putter has been the issue of late, the last few tournaments, but he's putted really well here before. We know he's a good putter. And I mean, on the comps, Kapalua is a good comp because you get a ton of wedges there. He was second there. He's fifth at Phoenix, T9 at the Players, second at Heritage. Like, he has played good on the Theegs courses this year. He's played good here. It's a brutal number. I always get sucked into Theegs. If I have boots on a Sunday and Theegs is in the mix, I'd literally like sell my soul to enjoy that experience because I love Theegs and the vibe so much. And we were there when he was in the mix a couple years ago. It wasn't on him,
and
but it was
you went out of your way to like follow Theegs because we were following other guys.
Yeah, like, and now we're boys with Carl. Like, all of these things, I really wanted to happen. So I might overexpose myself this week because it's Travy week, and I might throw him on the card, even though I know it's a bad number, just because like I want to be a part of it. At 40, who do you like the most out of these? Tone, Russ, Tommy Fleets.
Russ seems so obvious. Positional golf course, not Bermuda though, obviously. How difficult are we making it? Because Tommy Fleets. No, he's just so gutless. It's so funny. But
what were his stats last week?
What did he finish?
Tommy's stats are so funny. T16, he gained in every category. He gained almost 4 off the tee, one on approach, 1 around the greens, and 4 putting. Just like steady. One of the like almost excellent driving accuracy, like almost hit every fairway with distance.
It's just like it's like they're not real stats. Like, how did he do this? He doesn't have good course history here. He doesn't like play this event that much. I'm gonna go with Tommy. Just fuck it.
How has Tony played here? Tony's played all right. He can't putt here. How's Russ played? Russ was all putting last week, like pure putting. He hasn't been hitting the irons like Russ. He's been hitting the fairways.
No, he hasn't been.
But his iron play here historically is elite. Give me Russ.
This is
but
his worst iron year in a long time.
It's weird. Yeah. Give me Russ, but I like Tommy too. And I kind of like all these guys.
Oh, what about Tone? Like you said Tone, right?
Yeah. I'll pick him third just because I don't trust the putter the most of those three guys.
This was the first time in truthfully like multiple years where it looked like Tony cared. Like he was showing emotion on the golf course. Usually he misses putts and like literally shows nothing, just picks it up and moves on. But he looked like he really wanted to win on Saturday afternoon, which is good to see from Tone. I'm not sure if that translates to the Travelers. It's like the US Open at Pinehurst, but Tone cared.
I like Tone at the Open. Keep your eyes on Tone at the Open because why not? Tone at the Open makes sense. Sungjae fucked us last week. Sungjae, we need to quickly talk about Sungjae. Sungjae made all the sense in the world last week to like finish top 20. I was like, Sungjae will finish top 20. I don't know how he couldn't. He looked great in the practice rounds. Everything was perfect. He's an unserious player, Jersey. Everything about it's unserious. It sucks because we love Sungjae. He's one of the nicest guys. I gave him a great fist bump. We chatted for a quick second. Willie, we're boys with Willie. Like we want it to work for Sungjae. It didn't work last week. It's not working at the majors, but it should work here at Travy, Jers. This should be a place where Sung makes like 800 birdies and plays great. In the Battle of South Koreans at 50-1, Tom Kim or Sungjae? And do you have any thoughts about
where's Siwoo though?
Wow, good question. Siwoo is 75. So you're gonna have him in the battle too.
I'll go with Siwoo in that battle, but the Sungjae, yeah, it's not like we wanted him to play well last week. I mean, you bet him, but I really thought he'd play well. It's not like, and we didn't try to will it to happen. What we saw, he was like one of the better short game performances of anyone in the practice rounds, like confidence wise, like looked really good. And it's Bermuda, like Sungjae should play well on Bermuda. Just I feel like it was bad decision making, bad execution. Tough from Sungjae because it looked like he was.
This is hitting at too many flags. He gained it with ball striking. He hit it really good. His last 5 putting performances. Wells, he gained like 7. PGA, he lost 5 in 2 rounds. Gained 2 at Schwab. Gained like 5-ish at Memorial, and then lost 4.5 putt. Like the 2 major courses, for whatever reason, he is missing every putt. But that's not this week. And he's putted good here before. I kind of like.
Yeah, of course that makes sense for him. It's a course that makes sense for him for sure. And he's 2 top 10s or what is it? 3 top 10s in his last 5 starts. The good golf is not far for Sungjae.
But you're taking, what is it about Siwoo that you like besides the die connection, or is that the reason?
I honestly wasn't even thinking that, but it's just like the ball striking season he's had is just so good. Literally like a top 10 ball striking season this season of anyone. And yeah, definitely the die connection, the positional style golf course. The putter is a real question mark. If it's even a little bit more difficult, that helps Siwoo. So, and then the number
Siwoo has been massacred on the greens here, massacred on the greens. So I think I'd be out on Siwoo. I'll go Sungjae. I'll run him back out there. I'll give him another shot. He's been top 10 in the last 3 non-major starts that he's made. He's playing as consistent as anybody in those events. So fuck it. That was absolute garbage from Sungjae at Pinehurst. Hand up. I had it wrong, but I'm going to blame Sungjae, not myself, for that performance. Sungjae bounce back spot. Fitz sucked. Benon sucked. Windy sucked. Connors played good. Homa sucked. I'll give you those guys again. Who do you like between Fitz, Benon, Windy, Connors, and Homa? You can only have one.
Homa. What's his number?
55.
That's an absurd number on a golf course that he's played so poorly on. I don't think he's ever made a cut here, but this number is too good. Like he's playing bad. It makes so little sense that I love it. And this is for DFS, I think. I don't think he's gonna win, but 55 number is not a bad bet. 55-1 is not a bad bet, but it makes so little sense that it makes sense for me. Like his course history is so bad and his form is so bad that I'm going to play Homa in DFS because no one's going to play him. And he's like at a macro level, Homa is so much better than a lot of these golfers. Like Homa's in that top 2 ranges 8 times out of 10.
Yeah, I hear you on the number for sure. I genuinely have a concern about his driver, not like a concern about how he's going to play this week. Like he has the yips with the driver, and that derailed his career like a few years ago. I'm not saying
What did it turn out last week, driver?
negative. He
Tough.
hasn't been plus accuracy in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight starts, and like it was his accuracy that went haywire when his career got fucked up. I don't think it's to that extreme. I think he's a better overall player now. He can overcome some bad driving, and I think he can bounce back at any time. Like he's not going to have this devastation to his career that happened a few years ago. But I don't want to see a guy who historically had the yips with the driver showing like yippish stats with the driver. Like I don't want that. And then he's missed all 5 cuts here. Like I like the vibes you're saying, and purely from a numbers and like he's going to be low ownership, maybe take it a swing, but like I don't know. It's just tough right now from Max. But if he can start hitting the fairways because he clubs down, maybe hits a lot of irons off the tee or something this week, everything else in his game is okay. It's not terrible. I like Connors.
Connors has such a high floor. He's Scottie.
He finished T9 here last year without gaining putting. He's gained around the greens in 3 straight starts and in putting in 2 out of the last 3. What do we say about Connors? If he ever fixed his short game, he would be Scottie. Like I invented that take. I think Dan Rapp stole it from me, but that's my take. I've invented that on Connors. I like the model loves him. He's playing so good. He's finally putting better. His around the greens has gotten a lot better. If it plays a little bit more difficult, like maybe it's -14 winner, Corey Cons. I'm down.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Of course, makes so much sense.
And if I'm trying to have a guy who's like at least in the mix coming the weekend when we're there, I feel like I can trust Connors to not be
that'd be a tough sweat in person to watch Connors in the mix because it would be boring and he would not make any putts.
Let's get down the board. Let's do random Euro of the week, actually. Okay. We got some options in the random Euro of the week market. Obviously, Sepp is going to be mega popular this week. He makes all the sense in the world. Lowry, I'll give you Bez in the random Euros market. We'll include the South Africans this week because I'm sure Bez makes sense here and will be popular. Yags played better. Tommy Dietz, obviously. Bobby Mack, Pavs, Rose. Lots of options in the random Euro of the week market. I think there's plenty of live options in the random Euro of the week market. Where are you looking?
Seamus Power for sure. Seamus Power is my random Euro.
I wrote him
up
200 to 1.
Yeah, really?
I wrote him up. Yeah.
I'm down for that. Yeah, he's not been playing decent golf the last 2 months. Great stats. Course that makes a ton of sense for him. This is one of the courses that he's played well on before, like 3-4 years ago. Before he's like as a sponsor, as like a few starts that he's earned. This is one of the courses that he played that summer. So I like Seamus Power a lot in that standpoint. Course makes so much sense. Down for sure. Random Euro of the week.
I'm looking for any others that catch my
eye. Vic Perez is in the field.
I was just about to say Vic Perez. I like Justin Rose potentially for random Euro of the week. He's played really good here before. Positional, nothing wrong with that from Rose. Nope, out on Nick Taylor. I was going to include the Canadians here. Vic Perez. I don't know. I don't.
Are we letting Michael Thorbjornsen be European this week?
That's a fair question. Is Thorbjornsen eligible for the Viking Cup?
That is we have to talk to the committee.
I need to know Thorbjornsen's like family history because it has to interact with the Viking Cup nations. And in like soccer, you can play for as long as it like somehow is connected to you in soccer. If you commit yourself to that like path, you can play for that country. I think Thorbjornsen.
I don't think we have to like look into it. Just look at his last name. Like,
if you have a last name with one of the O's with a diagonal line through it, you're on the Viking Cup. Like you're in the program and you can choose which country you want to play for.
Our roster is building by the week.
The roster, I mean, Tim Viting. It's Viting, by the way, not Whiting, which makes sense. We're also bringing on an intern to the Viking Cup who's going to be from one of the Nordic countries who will help us with pronunciations because I always feel bad when we fuck up the pronunciations when nobody like cares more about the Viking Cup nations than us. Beautiful effort from Viting. The dude's going to be a problem. Like he's playing great on KFT. He shows up in a major play as well. This roster is better than the rest of Europe. Like in the power rankings, they might be number 1 right now.
Yeah, I mean, really good effort from Timmy. He was beating Brooks up until hole 18 yesterday. He made a triple on 18 to lose that matchup. Not that I bet it or anything, because why would I do that? And yeah, so Timmy, he's shout out San Francisco. He's here. Great for his Viking Cup stock. We're gonna definitely probably the next month come up with a official Viking Cup power rankings, and it's
Yeah,
probably gonna be around 50 golfers.
we have to get the ranking system out so the players know where they stand, so that this can continue to build towards the Viking Cup in the coming years. But a great Nico played really well. He didn't play good in the final round, but Nico is up there for a while. Another made cut in majors. Nico makes the cut in the major every single time. If you're looking for a guy in DFS in the majors, he's always like 300 to 1. Just put Nico on the card because the way he drives it. Nico, I still think his path to number 1 makes sense. Like,
Yeah, he's fine.
it's
Little halt in the system, like a month, but that's fine. He made the hard holes look like a joke more times than once this week. He put one to tap in on hole 4 from the bunker. I was like, is this a flaw in the shot tracer? I was like, no, he did it.
Yeah, that was insane. All right, quickly down the board. Willie Z let us down. I think deep down we knew he was going to let us down. Like I wrote, we bet him because we had to, because he passed our test. But by the end of the week, I'd written up that like I couldn't really confidently say to play him in any formats. He's 80 to 1 this week. Any chance for a bounce back?
Tough, man. It's really tough from Willie Z. I get that. This one, it might hurt more than Rory, honestly, because as a Willie Z fan, I am. Yeah, that was a horrific bet that we made. We thought the North Carolina thing was going to be better. He looked better than he played. And he looked fine on Thursday. He was 2 under or 1 under at one point around like whole 10 holes in. And then it ended up not being great, obviously, from Willie Z. Easily missed the cut. So tough look there. So I know we both bet him. Not great from Willie Z. What are you doing?
I'm in the midst of my computer's dying, and I thought it was plugged in. It was a different plug, so I'm gonna work on this. But you give me your triple digit or like long shot guys that you have your eyes on this week while I solve this problem.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm going to talk about Cam Davis for a second, and he doesn't have the best course history, but I just want to make the connection, a dual connection. These are similar style grass that we see in Detroit, a place where he's putt well in before and won. And then you want the tight driving corridors. Shout outs to Holly, women's US Open is this week, or women's PGA Championship this week.
Women's PGA to Holly. Positional accuracy, precision. If there's LPGA bettors listening, send us your cards, please.
Yes. Okay. So Cam Davis, he's probably infinite odds. He does not have great course history here, but I like the way he's put at Detroit, making that connection, and then he's played great at club down courses. So always Cam D for us, and I think I might plant this as a Cam D week because we know our guy. We definitely know Cam. So.
And I remember when we were there a couple years ago, going into the weekend, he was mixing because I remember BK was on him and he played good there. I also think it's hilarious that I gave you the mic and you take it to Cam Davis. As you were just given the freedom to roam. Coach said isolation for jurors, let him run whatever play he wants, and he calls the Cam Davis number. That is beautiful and perfectly on brand. To end Travy, let me give you some positional guys that just like to me, it sounds like it would make sense for them, and you give me your quick take on them. Akshay at 100. Or actually, of these three, Akshay, Hoagie, Posty at 100. Who do you like the most?
I like Posty a lot, but I didn't know Akshay was 100. I like Posty because we're coming around to the Poston Birdie Fest weeks where he's like most tipped and it makes a ton of sense. I want to get ahead of that because this is really where it starts. He doesn't have the best course history, but he's done it here before, and this is that style of course. Posty's a microwave and can light up at any single time, and then once he does light up, it's like a 3-week spurt. So if we can get ahead of that spurt, because Posty will get down to 35 to 1 at the JDC. So this is obviously a tougher field, but the course makes so much sense.
Yeah, I love.
And he played played really good last week.
Has Hoagie played good here before?
Horrible.
This is another one of the Hoagie Mirage courses where it makes all the sense. Why does this keep happening? Like,
yeah,
it makes them. Yeah, so I guess we're out because we keep saying we're out when this happens. So I guess we got to be out again.
And it's been true to so far. Like the courses that Hoagie makes sense on and doesn't have the course history, he hasn't done it.
Yeah, I'm out. I like Akshay for sure. Mac Hughes was just like favorite at RBC at like 40 to 1. He's 120 to 1 now, and he's finished top 10 here, or he's finished T3 here before solely short game. Like, do we have to?
It's always going to be a solely short game. It's always going to be a solely short game, which is fine with Mac Hughes. I don't love it. I was high on Mac Hughes last week, like as one of my favorite 6K plays, and then he was going fine until he made an 8 on hole 1 on Friday, and then it was just downhill from there. So yeah, it was honestly like we had some really good picks last week and some really bad picks last week. Like
besides Sungjae and Zal, who both like played it terribly ejected, all my guys made the cut and played fine. I never got a guy who like spiked, except for finally Henley got the putter going, but it's Russ Henley. But okay, last question for Travy. 150 to 1. You can only have one. Ben Griffin, CK, Eck, glove.
Eck. Shot like 20 over last week. We made the cut. This is an Eck course for sure. Yeah.
Give me Ben Griffin. I think he's riding the wave right now, and he's not accurate, but maybe he can just find the fairways here. Didn't play good here last year. We obviously prefer him on Bermuda, but I don't know. I just have a feeling that
and he's probably pissed that he wasn't in the US Open because that was an auto T20, which he knew.
Do you think Hadwin's pissed that he lost his spot on the Olympic team? Do we need to have our eyes on Hadwin's 170 to 1.
Did that happen last week? He lost his spot?
Yeah, he lost it to Connors.
Damn. I mean, I think that's fair, though.
Yeah,
but no, I saw it got finalized. I mean, out of all, what were you saying?
I was going to say Hadwin sucks here, so I think I'm out.
Out of all those, I would just skip them all and go to Brendan Todd. Brendan Todd at, I don't even know what his odds are.
350 to 1.
Yeah, he's missed his last 2 cuts here, but he's got a T11 4 years ago. But I like Brendan Todd because this is the place where I found out that Brendan Todd talking to Scottie Scheffler in a group, and he said to Scottie, I really only like to play courses where I think I can contend at, and this is one of my favorite ones. So, Brendan Todd.
I'll give you another tidbit to end on up that alley. I was watching the Cov. I got absolutely massacred. I saved this for this deep in the pod because at this point, the only people listening at this point are people who just like really like the pod, like to listen to us. So, shout out to
LIV guys.
We appreciate you. And the LIV people are punching walls. Like they can't believe we haven't got to LIV yet. We love LIV. We've hit more winners on LIV than anybody. Like LIV is the only way I'm making money this year, like minting money on LIV. But I had the worst food poisoning of my life on Saturday morning. Like we came back, we were here. Thursday was fine. Friday was good. Like I was watching the golf. I woke up at 4:30. The second I genuinely thought I was going to die. Like I was laying on the floor in the bathroom for like 8 hours. Like I think I'm dead. Like this is how it ends. Like right here, right now. I think it was food poisoning because it very quickly went away and like I'm totally fine now. But I was watching a lot of the Cov like laying on the ground in the bathroom with like my phone because like I literally thought I was going to die. I'm listening to the Cov in this moment of like delusion on like Friday night. No, maybe it wasn't. Like I think it was a replay. So, somehow I was watching in this state and I heard this quote on the broadcast. So I don't think Malnati made the cut. Did he? No chance, right?
No, he did not.
No, because it wasn't but maybe I was rewatching some highlights or something like that, or watching them because I had nothing else to do but like try to survive these like hours on the floor. One of the announcers goes, I was talking to Malnati earlier in the week. Like he told me this isn't a major for him. Next week's his major, Travelers. So Peter Malnati declaring this his major at 750 to 1. I have to tell you that. He's never played good here, but this is a new PGA Tour winning Peter Malnati. FYI, this is his major. He's from around here, apparently.
Is he really? I thought he was from like Arkansas or Missouri. All right, I'm down. No, I'm down.
I mean, unless this announcer was lying to us to try to bait us into betting him at 350 to 1. Yeah, he's from Indiana. He went to Missouri. Maybe it's family he's got up here. The announcer was like, I talked to Malnati and he's all in on Travy. So just so you know.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely down. And what are Gotterup's odds also? Because he's min price on DraftKings.
400.
He's min price on DraftKings. Yeah, he randomly spikes on approach at random. Like the last time he lost he's lost on approach in 4 straight. He won the next week. He's lost on 4 straight.
I assume that Putnam's DK number is insane. He's 300 to 1. This makes sense for Putnam. Jake Knapp is 300 to 1 also. And like Jake Knapp sucks, but if it's a club down course and he can just hit fairways, maybe. But yeah, that's Travy. Obviously, everything will be up on the site. We're going to try to pick the winner this week because we're going to have boots, and it'd be great to have somebody in the mix. I'll probably bet more guys than I usually do. That the 7 to 8x this week might be a 6x just because I need to have at least one guy at least sniffing contention while we were there. It's never happened for me. I always picked Travy terribly. I picked it good last year. I had all these guys in the mix. Denny fucked me over the weekend there, but let's try to get some guys into the mix. We'll also be on TIB, but this is all that matters for us. It's LIV. We've been crushing LIV. I genuinely think we're probably the best LIV bettors on earth. Like, I don't think that's an exaggeration. 3 wins for both of us in 8 events for LIV. We get a course that's hosted. Last week was great, or 2 weeks ago was great in Houston because we got a course that had hosted the Houston Open. We get a course here that's hosted a Corn Ferry event. Do you remember what it's called?
Simmons Bank Open.
Simmons Bank Open for the last 3 years. It was a playoff event last year. It to me looks like a course where it's little driver putter. I actually think it looks a lot like Houston. Is it Bent or Bermuda? Do you know?
I believe it is Bermuda. Could be wrong.
Okay, we got to look that up because if it's Bermuda, I think like comping to Houston a couple weeks ago is going to be crucial. But I see driving being the key here. Hold on just a second. I was going to pull up the leaderboards here from this event. Rest in peace, Grayson Murray actually won here last year. That's kind of crazy. The guys who are in second, they're all pretty solid drivers. Brent Grant here, won the year before that. He was like a really good strokes, and like accurate too, though. Like he was a good strokes gained off the tee guy last year on the PGA Tour. Kevin Yu was second. If Kevin Yu is finishing second, you know that ball striking and driving. Smotherman won here. So I see a course where hitting it long and straight is going to be a huge advantage. What are you looking at? It's called the Grove.
I'm actually looking more towards approach and driving accuracy. So like fairly opposite of what you are. So definitely interesting to see how that plays out. I'm looking at it.
I wouldn't say it's the opposite. I think like off the tee with accuracy and distance. I think it all starts off the tee, and then I'd probably still say maybe approach more than putting. So I think we're in the same ballpark. I'm just heavy on the off the tee. I think you're probably a little bit more on the approach.
Okay, yeah. So looking at like hit your fairways, hit your greens, because if you do miss, I think there's some fair penalty for missing both greens and missing fairways. So just because anytime a Corn Ferry event is not 20 under, that shows that it's somewhat of a test because these guys go to like 25 to 30 under every single week, truthfully. And also, Corn Ferry played this at a par 72. LIV's playing this as a par 71. So it's going to make scoring even that much harder. I'm thinking this is going to be like the second or third toughest LIV event in terms of just score to par that we've seen so far. So, I mean, which is fun, a different test. Always fun to see a new course. We got the dip that we talked about in the car. We have a 10 on Jon Rahm.
All right, that's noted. I know we did talk about that, and you've been. The funny thing is, as we said, we've both hit 3 out of 8 on LIV. 2 of them have been overlap, 1 of them wasn't. But there was a stretch there where you were only betting Rahm single bullet every week, and who knows how many more winners you'd have on LIV if you didn't do that. But at least at 10, you could bet some other guys. And to your point on the scoring here, it's been -17, -16, -16 in the 3 Corn Ferry events. And to your point, like it's usually -25 at the Corn Ferry. So a little more difficult conditions. I think that speaks to the importance of good driving to like keep yourself in play. But to your point, maybe hitting GIRs is going to be more important than putting because like I think there's a reasonable amount of slope like around these greens that will challenge it. We'll see how LIV decides to set it up. A guy that came to my mind and ranks out highly in the model and played good on the Sergio. And so, but these are DraftKings odds. The better odds come up. Yeah, that wasn't one of the times where we were on the same page. But Dean Burmey, I think, is back in business this week. Tee to Green Machine, short game specialist. We saw it in person. He's 18-1. I could see myself starting the card with some Dean Burmey.
I wish Pavone was on LIV. He should be.
They should do sponsors exemptions for LIV because. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens this week with the LIV PGA drama. But at this point, with Bryson winning and like becoming the biggest fan favorite in the world, all LIV hatred almost has to be put aside. Like I don't know what to say. We like to bet LIV. LIV's fine. Like let them give sponsors exemptions. Let Pavs ride the wave and play LIV Nash because mainly so that we can bet on it and make money. But for the vibes, it would be great. He could pick a team. Who knows which team he could play for? It would be fascinating. Sergio's only 20-1, which isn't great. I think he makes sense. Carlos,
I will say, Dean wanted a sharp number. Carlos wanted a sharp number. Those are both their highest odds of the season. like
Good point.
shortest odds of the season.
Yeah.
So that's why I like Sergio. Well, I also like Sergio from like a pure golf standpoint, but then I saw his number. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fit. It's like the opposite of what a PGA. Like the drifters are winning on PGA, the sharp numbers are winning on LIV. So that's the opposite of the ROM thing. But for Sergio, I think I'm gonna do that.
That's a great call. I like that. What do you think Bryson does? Do you think he's going to be like, or is he party mode?
He's. I mean, he has. I don't think he drinks. He's plus 750, but like, if Bryson wins as the favorite after winning the US Open, that would be more impressive than winning the US Open.
Yeah, I mean, we can live with ourselves if Bryson does that.
I don't think this is really a great Bryson course either.
Moronck's 40-1. Moronck just hit it down the middle every time. Yeah, like I don't know why he's 40-1. So you're leaning Rom at the top of the board, or do any of the other big names matter? Because I think a lot of success this year on betting LIV has been just ignoring the big names. But which ones are you looking at? Gooch is 12-1.
It's a course that makes sense for Gooch, but the number is absurd, and he hasn't been playing good golf. So what
did Gooch do in Houston?
He was not great. He battled back on Sunday to help, almost help your smash bet. He shot 6 under on Sunday, but I think he was over par going into that round.
Yeah, if Gooch doesn't play great in Houston, I don't know if I love him here. In general, like I said, I think just comping to Houston won't be too bad this week. And to your point about the smash bet, I've now bet smash in the team market, single B, the last 2 events. They finished twice both times. I don't think I'll get there this week because I think Brooks isn't going to give a fuck and he's going to be on vacation mode. But we'll see. I'll obviously have a team bet. It's a fun thing to bet, and it's been in the mix the first 2 times that I've done it, which makes me like it even more. But yeah, for LIV, I think you got to drive it well. Hatton is a loser, but he kind of makes sense.
We should team bet. I think it's a horrible golf course for Cam Smith, by the way. Team bet. I like Rom. You texted me last night. Surratt home game. Legion. Mm-hmm. They're probably the favorite though. Legion team bet.
Yeah, let me see if I can get the team odds up really quick.
Like 7-1, I'm down for Legion team bet.
Yeah, I don't think you'll get 7-1. They're usually like plus 400. Let me see if we can get the odds here. LIV Golf Nashville odds to win. We don't have the team yet. We do not have the team bets yet. You'll have to come to the site for those. It probably won't hit, but it will be fun. Yeah, I think it's a good LIV tournament. Like I said, I get excited for LIV now. I don't know, just mainly because it's been so straightforward from betting. I think you can hate on LIV, you can hate on whatever you want. If there's a place where it's easier to bet, like that's where I'll bet. That used to be the DP. I don't think it's the DP anymore. The DP is too random, but like LIV is good
KLM
for betting.
Week.
And is it KLM week? Shout out to Pablo. He's bound to win again soon, so watch out for Pablo. Paul Casey's 35-1. I'll be interested in that.
Makes sense for Casey.
Tommy Pete
definitely makes sense for Casey. Yeah, real quickly with the LIV week. So Sunday we're going to be at Travelers. And if you guys are there, definitely come say what's up. Unless we're under a tree watching our phones, we're sweating LIV bets. Do not come say what's up then.
Yeah, I mean, it's a true LIV versus PGA scenario this week. If we've got people in the mix, I'm going to find the shade. They're at Travy post. It's going to be hot. When I think of Travy, I think of like the hottest weather that I could possibly imagine. Speaking of the weather was really hot in Pinehurst. But Jers, to end on outside of golf, like I said, we made it to this point. The people are listening just kind of want to know the vibes the best. I've officially declared my bachelor party, which is TBD when that will happen, is going to be at Pinehurst. I've declared I'm moving to Pinehurst after the age of 50. There's Pinehurst. I've obviously people know about Pinehurst, so it's not like Pinehurst snuck up on anybody. And then I feel like I'm in the know on golf in general, and I know like where people are playing golf and things like that. I think it's underrated. People still talk about Bandon more and like other places. Like I've been to Bandon. I grew up on the West Coast. Pine is sick. Pine is unbelievable. Nothing is like Pine. It's insane.
Yeah, Carolina golf is really good. We played Mid Pines in another Carolina Trace. It's my 5th or 6th course I played in the Carolinas, including South Carolina. Unbelievable golf. So fun. Tree line, slopey, challenging, but fun. Nothing. I mean, obviously you could play a crazy course, but very fun. I'm with you there. I've been talking about it since we played, and part of my take talked about how Mark Calcavecchia tweeted that Pinehurst number 2 is not even the best course on all the Pinehurst rotations, and then people were like, yeah, in the comments, Mid Pines is way better, stuff like that. I'm like, Vic, like they're right, it is better.
Yeah, I mean, like I obviously hadn't played golf in over like I played a couple times with rental sets like when I was back in Washington, but I hadn't played like my clubs or anything in so long. Like I don't go to the driving range. I never golf. And I didn't play good at all. But even with how difficult the courses that we played were, they were still fun. And like they were hard, but not in a way that like ruins your day. Like you're hitting it in the water
Right.
every single time or loosening your ball on every single hole. Like it allowed me to still experience like the difficulty because like when I was in position, I still had to deal with the Donald Ross greens or like all that type of stuff. But it
Sure
wasn't the
did.
demoralizing, like your ball's lost every hole, like you
Right.
infinity penalty strokes. And that's awesome because like some courses are really hard, but then they're so hard that the average player can't like enjoy it in any way, shape, or form or get some of the nuance. We got the nuance, even though we weren't hitting the ball great.
Yeah, that was exceptional. I'm definitely tailing you on that bachelor party as mine will be there as well. So 100%.
Sick. We'll get to go twice in some
Oh yeah.
period of
Oh
time,
yeah.
which will
We
be
are
sick.
there.
All right, well, boots on the ground. We'll be on the pod tonight with BK, TIB. I think it's gonna be like 9 o'clock or something like that. So if you want even more takes from us in the pod format, that's where you'll find us this week, and then you'll see us boots on the ground. We're playing golf on Friday and Sunday. You beat me in both matches that we played. You got me pretty good in the first match. I think it was like 6-5. I shook off some of the rust. I think it was 2-1 in the final match. BK and I are going to team up against you and your buddy. I'm going to make us the slight favorites just because I think I'm trending back into form, and I think BK is in the best form of everybody right now. But I'm excited to do battle with you once again this weekend.
Yeah, let us know if you guys want to get down on that in any form. We can cross match me versus Adam, me versus BK. We will take it. We will take your bets.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Jers. Let's have a week.
Yep.